Hey Shane, so talk to us about converting leads. Tell me one or a couple tactics or strategies that will help bring in new patients and help us better utilize Google Ads.
Yeah, Michael. So, what I tell people in any business, whether it's dentistry, our company, whatever it is you have to take a different approach to converting a lead that comes from marketing versus one that comes from like an existing patient, right? Like, obviously, we would love to have internal referrals that we can build, the practice off of those, and then external marketing can lead to more internal referrals, but you have to handle those type of patients differently. An external or an internal referral from the patient or an existing patient, they're more than likely probably going to book an appointment with you because their friend or family members told them about the practice and why they should go there. They know someone who goes there already. It's kind of like one of those slam dunks. Whereas when somebody comes from, let's say, Google Ads, for example, or Facebook, whatever the case is, they may not necessarily know anybody who's come to the practice before. They may require a few extra touch points, if you will. So the first thing that I always tell people is when you have leads coming through from an external marketing source like Google Ads or something of the case is, number one, it's going to sound simple, but you got to make sure you answer the phone when it rings. You cannot let that thing go to voicemail and then try to call them back. We monitor calls in our agency, and you'd be surprised at how many times like someone just isn't able to get to the phone to answer that call. And then by that time, they've already moved on to their next option. So first thing is you got to make sure you have somebody by the phones at like every single second during business hours, and some even obviously after business hours, because that is revenue you're letting walk right out the practice if you're not even getting a chance to talk to them. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, it's going to require a more of a discovery type conversation, is talking to the patient about, let's say, for example, someone is asking about implants. And one of the first questions we hear it time and time again, I'm sure our offices out there hear this and they're like, oh my gosh, this question again. But hey, how much do your dental implants cost? Right? It's
Mm-hmm.
like, how would we know? We got to figure out what it is that you need. Are you a candidate for implants? So when somebody asks a question like that, and that's a very common one, you have to make sure that your team is trained to ask some discovery questions like, well, I'd be happy to help, you understand more about dental implants at our practice. But before I can, give you any suggestions, I got to ask you a few questions here. Number one, can you tell me a little bit about why you're looking into dental implants? Get them to open up and explain what their current situation is. It could be someone that's, hey, I've just lost all functionality. Like, I have to get a solution. They're going to start going into like those pain points that they're having. And that is putting the conversation in control of your team, because once they start talking about, the issues that they're having and, all of these other side effects of why they think they need implants, the price, first thing that comes to mind when they called, that's kind of getting put on the back burner a little bit because you're listening to them. You're trying to find a solution for them. And in that time, you're building rapport with that patient as well. So ask questions like, can we tell me why, you think you might be looking at implants, and, how, has your journey been so far? What have you looked at? What's been your research? And then from there, you can say, well, listen, we would love to help you. We do this, all the time and talk to people just like yourself in our practice. But really, in order to provide you the best answer and really make sure that you're getting the appropriate treatment planned, we would love to have you come in for a complimentary consultation. You can speak one-on-one with our doctor. We'll find, what a good solution for you will be. And then we can go over in a non-pressured environment what the cost and investment is for something like that. And I always tell, this is kind of bullet point under that tip of having these discovery questions, is make sure that you aren't necessarily saying it costs this much, or it's not, it's like an expense. You don't want it to think that way. It's an investment, right? It's an investment in their smile. And so when somebody comes in and they're asking questions about price or insurance, whatever the case is, you can break that barrier down a little bit by asking some of these discovery questions, getting to know them. And Michael, we've listened to countless calls where somebody from the front desk has spent 10 or 12 minutes talking to a patient on the phone when it opened up like that. And by the end, that patient schedules because they've built a connection. They feel like you actually care about them and their best interest, and that builds trust with the practice. So that's the second one there, is make sure that you're front desk isn't just not saying we can't provide that over the phone and then just, stops the conversation. Get to the root of the issue. So that's the second tip there. The third and kind of final tip is once that patient has, let's say, submitted a form on the website that they've requested an appointment or they've called, we are really big on emailing them a video that is pre-recorded and it looks personalized, like it was made just for them, but it's a general one that you can use for all new patient inquiries, where it's the doctor just, quick little videos like, hey, want to thank you so much for, your interest in our practice and scheduling your first new patient appointment. We're really excited to meet you. Here's a little bit about us. This is about what we do. Highlight, some of your Google reviews and why that means so much to you and why you look forward to meeting this patient, in the coming days, weeks, whatever the case is. Having just one little standardized video that gets emailed after their new patient appointment is booked is a personal little touch that, again, is going to just give you the best chance possible of making sure that that patient actually shows up, for their appointment. And not only that, it moves forward with whatever treatment's recommended because they've already built that trust.
Gotcha. Okay. And so if we rewind back to step one, when we answer the phone when it rings and we don't want to let it go to voicemail, how much after business hours should we expect to receive, I guess, calls from what you've seen?
Yeah. So it just depends. Like most of our clients, if they don't have after hours answering services, we won't run paid ads after hours, just because, we want to make sure that someone is there to answer the phone. Now, if they have after hours call answering, then, that's going to be something that they're going to, be able to see. But you really won't get a lot of calls after hours unless you say that you're, open on your website or you're whatever the case is, but you have to have an indicator that you're open, whether it's on your Google My Business profile or your website. And that's where you're going to get most of those like after hours calls, especially for like emergency type patients as well. That's why we really, advocate for online scheduling, because if you have online scheduling on your site, somebody's going to know at 8 o'clock or 7:30 when they've got, the kids down for the night and they're doing, they're getting appointments booked. They're going to understand that a general dental practice most likely is not going to be open at 7:30 or 8 o'clock at night. So if you have an online scheduling option online on your site, then you're going to be more likely to convert that patient as well. But from the paid advertising, the way we look at it is you shouldn't be running paid ads after hours unless you have somebody answering those calls.
Gotcha. Which brings a good point. Like maybe if we do run ads after hours, emergencies, should it be like those type of ads to kind of promote?
Yeah, absolutely. Like if you want to be, if you're on call or you're, have somebody answering those calls, like it is, I tell people all the time, like emergency, like after hours, weekend type patients, they're slam dunks as far as getting them in the office and getting them scheduled and getting, whatever treatment that they need. And those are ads that you would 100% want to run after hours, assuming, again, somebody would be able to come in or get that patient in first thing the next morning. So you just want to make sure you position, yourself well around that, because you don't want to advertise for that and then be like, well, actually, I wouldn't be able to see it for 3 days from now. Then you're kind of throwing money out the window at that point.
Gotcha. Okay. And then the second is conversate, right? What if they're asking about implants? That means somebody somewhere told them maybe they need implants, right? And then they're like kind of looking for a second opinion or something like that. So those type of ads, would that be like second opinion ads or hey, get implants for this amount, right? Or how do those, from your experience, how do those ads look like from where they convert and they're asking about implants?
Yeah, so some of it's second opinion, but a lot of times people just kind of done their own research and they feel like, hey, I've got, missing teeth. I know that I'm going to need something done. And so they kind of just assume that, hey, implants may be the solution. How much would that, be? That's kind of like how the person comes to that conversation. And so like from specific ads that we run for our clients, we advertise specifically for, free implant consultations. And then we usually will put something along the lines of payment plans or financing options available. Rarely do we advertise a specific price for implants in an ad, just because again, we believe the doctor should see the patient and properly evaluate what would be best for them, number one, because maybe they're not even a candidate for implants. So that's the first thing. The second thing for that is, you want to make sure that you are not promising like something like to try to be like bottom of the barrel, like cheapest price either, because that also brings a certain type of patient with it as well. And some practices may advertise for that and want to, get those patients, and it's a very like high numbers. If we see 15 consults, then as long as one or two of those close, then boom, we're golden. But the focus that we really take is, rather than advertising specifically on price, trying to advertise more so on, yes, you get the free consult, but you get to meet with, our expert, dentist, who is going to go through all your different options, show you some of the different, cases that he's done that's similar to what you may be looking for, and then kind of positioning it that way. And if you do it that way, our findings have been you'll get less like tire kickers and less price shoppers, and more like, hey, I'm just looking for somebody who I can trust, who I know is going to do an exceptional job and who's experienced in this. And that's usually the type of patient that we're trying to target in our ads.
Gotcha. Okay, perfect. And then the last thing for the conversion is to email them a pre-recorded video, right? Not so much like, hi, thank you for doing, and coming in, blah. It has to be like almost like where it seems personal, minus the name, right?
Yes. Yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah. You want to have the personalized side of it. And if you have, different categories for different new patients, like since we're on the topic of implants, I'll just talk about that. We can, say something like, hey, we're super excited for you to come in for your, implant consultation at our practice. Just want to give you an idea. This is kind of what you can expect. The appointment will be, 45 minutes long. And, the first step is we'll get you in, we'll have you fill out some paperwork. Second thing is you're going to meet with me. We're going to have a conversation, kind of figure out where you're at and kind of why you may be interested in implants. And then from there, if it sounds good with you, we'll go through and do, CBCT or whatever the case is, but something that personalizes that and kind of prepares them for the appointment. And again, the advantage of having something like that and why we advocate for so much video is because they're going to feel like they've already kind of met you sort of, right? Like through that video before their appointment. So it's like when you do meet with them for the first time in person, it doesn't feel to them like they're just meeting you. And that's really powerful when it comes to the psychology of, building trust and a bond with that patient for something as big as, an implant case that's going to be a big investment, both financially and time-wise for you and the patient.
Gotcha. Okay. So that's pretty much the 3 steps right now in order to convert well a Google ad lead, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep,
Awesome.
exactly. You have your team follow those. And just what I always tell people is monitor, listen to calls that come through, follow up on forms, submissions or consult requests that come through, and train and figure out, what could we have done better on this call to get that patient in, or, what could we have done better here? What did we do good here? We need to always be measuring and always improving to get better. And that's not scolding your team and being like, hey, you should have done this, this, this. It's like, no, it's using existing conversations, time to audit those, and then look back and say, okay, this was what we did good. Here's what we could do better. And so you just need to measure, track those, listen to those calls. Be surprised how many offices don't do that. And you'll find that you're more than likely going to be leaving a lot of potential new patients, kind of letting them walk, so to speak, before they even get into the door. So be sure to listen to your calls and use those as training for your team.
Awesome, Shane. I appreciate your time. And if anyone has further questions, you can definitely find them on the Dental Marketer Society Facebook group, or where can they reach out to you directly?
Yeah, you can always reach out to us at crimsonmediagroup.com. You can always fill out a form there if you have any questions about what we do, and always book a time with me to where we can kind of go over your practice and kind of what your marketing goals are. And we're always glad to be a resource.
Awesome. So guys, that's going to be in the first link in the show notes below if you want to check that out. So guys, thank you so much for being with me on this episode. And Shane, thank you for being with me on this episode too. And thank you for coming on this Monday morning marketing series.
Yeah, thanks, Michael.